Joining me now is the star of stage and screen. She's a best-selling author. She's had a telling off from the Queen, and she's never been described as shy. It is the beautiful Miriam Margolyes. Hello, Miriam.
David, what a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. You are described a lot as a national treasure.
Yes, it's embarrassing because I don't deserve an accolade of that nature. I'm a very nice old lady who's been very, very lucky.
What?
And I believe that that's about as good as it gets. National treasure is a lot of nonsense. I mean, I haven't done enough to merit such an accolade.
Well, you know what they say about national treasures? It takes one to know one. So, hello. Yeah. What would you say? I mean, you've done so much. What would you say when people spot you out and about? What are you most recognized for?
It depends on their age. If they're young, it's usually Harry Potter. If they're not quite so young, it might be Romeo and Juliet or The Age of Innocence. And much older people remember Blackadder, which was really a long time ago.
Yes.
Or Dickens' Women, which was the thing I'm proudest of, which is a play I wrote with Sonia Fraser about Charles Dickens. But as long as they recognize me, I don't care if it's just because they saw me in Sainsbury's yesterday. But I like contact with the public, so I never mind when people come up to me.
Let's talk about your book. This Much Is True. New autobiography.
Yes.
Do you have a copy that? Very nice. And tell me about it.
People ask me why I wrote it, and I wrote it because the publishers offered me a great deal of money, and that was my offer I couldn't refuse. It was possible to write it because of COVID, because I went to Italy in all for 8 months. It took me 5 months to write it. And I was able to concentrate and not be deflected from the purpose. So I would just go to the computer every day. Now, what they did, which was a clever way of doing it, I didn't want to have ghostwriters. I wanted it to be my words that people read and my thoughts that were on the page. So they interviewed me like we're doing now on Zoom about 40 times, I should think.
Wow.
And from the recordings of those Zoom meetings were given to me the transcripts because they had them typed out by a typist. And from those transcripts, I wrote the book.
Wow. And could you see yourself now being a novelist, or is this a one and done thing?
No, God, no. It was damn hard work.
Yeah.
It was interesting because I was revisiting the worlds that have gone, the people that are no longer here, and contacting those that are and getting their memories of me. And it was an interesting exercise, but no, I'm not a writer.
What's the big takeaway that people are going to get from the book?
It depends who they are. The people who like sex will enjoy the constant fellatio which goes on throughout the book. Those of a more decorous nature will enjoy the reflections on politics and life and friendship. It just depends who reads it.
You got quite a broad audience there.
Yes, I tried to take in the world as much as I could, but it's all true. Everything that's in the book is true.
Any shocks in there? Are people going to be shocked or surprised by anything in particular, do you think?
Oh, I'm sure they're going to be shocked, yes. People, on the whole, feel embarrassed by sexual descriptions and so on. I don't describe sex in prurient detail, but I tell what happened. I tell the accounts of meeting men in the street, men on a boat, and I've had relations with men. I've never been penetrated by a man, but we've gone damn close.
Yeah. You're already #1 on the charts in the UK, and a lot of times when we have a really successful book, the natural progression is a film made of the book. If they were to do that, who would you want to play yourself in the movie?
No, I don't want to have a film made of my book, and I can't imagine anybody who would be as interesting as me. I have been asked that question before, and I laughingly said Meryl Streep, because she couldn't even begin to get inside my character. But I don't want that. I'm not looking for further fame. I'm certainly looking for further money. I really love money, but I refuse to be corrupted by it.
That's a really good way to live. Well, and unfortunately, you're not going to make much from this show, but thank you for your time with it.
The pleasure is greater than the money with this show, believe me.
Stay tuned. We will be right back. Unless you're streaming this, then just carry on. Your encounter with the Queen. You know the one I'm speaking of.
For some reason, that particular anecdote gets a lot of airplay. I will talk about it again, although I feel that everybody was probably heard it already. But in England, there's something called British Book Week, when everybody connected with the book trade is celebrated. And Her Majesty holds a reception at Buckingham Palace for everyone in the book trade that she decides to invite that year. And because I record books, audiobooks, I was invited. It was a great honor. I was terribly excited, so I turned up. An old friend of mine who was also connected with books as a bookseller, she came too. And I said to an equerry, one of the people who line the walls, "Oh, I'm going to have to go because, can you hang on? Can you wait for a minute? Because someone at the door."
Yes, sure.
I have to answer it. You just have to pause for a minute. So, the Queen. Yes, so I said to the equerry, I'd love to meet the Queen. Would it be possible? I know she mingles with those assembled here today. And he said, "Oh, yes, it's very possible. You just form a semicircle, smile, and if she happens to glance in your direction, see you smiling, she will come towards you and have a conversation." So I thought, right, I'll do that. Now, as I say always, it's not easy to form a semicircle when you're on your own. So I gathered a couple of other people, and we formed a semicircle, and we pasted a smile, an absolutely intense, glowing smile on our faces, and looked towards where we saw the Queen was standing with some people, and she happened to turn around, and she happened to see this group of painfully smiling people. So she came over to us, and she stood in front of me, and she said, "And what do you do?" And instead of replying in a normal way, "Ma'am, I read books on tape, audiobooks," I said, "Your Majesty, I am the best reader of stories in the whole world." Well, of course, she looked at me and she went, and immediately moved away to the next person at my side. And she said, "And what do you do?" And he said, "Well, Ma'am, I teach dyslexic children to read. And we've discovered that if the pages in the book are different colors and the words are printed in different colors, that helps children to absorb the information more quickly and easily." I, standing next to him, was fascinated by this, and so I interrupted the conversation and said, "Really, my goodness, I didn't know that. That's amazing." And Her Majesty turned to me, furious at my rudeness in interrupting them, and said, "Be quiet." Well, everybody looked down with embarrassment, but I refused to be downed by this. And so I said, "I'm so sorry, Your Majesty, I got carried away with excitement." And she thought, "Oh, God." And you could see that. And she started to tell us a story about how she'd been at a school that day. I was at a school in North London and at a literature class, and I was hearing how they, and she went on describing this educational event that she'd been present at. And I interrupted her again and said, "Well, you see, Your Majesty, we're so lucky to be English because we have the best literature in the world. We have Dickens and Shakespeare and Wordsworth and Charles Lamb and Byron and Elizabeth Barrett Browning." And I went through the syllabus, you see, and I see her eyes glazing over. And I said, "Imagine, for example, Your Majesty, if we had been born," and I paused trying to find a country that had a small amount of literature or no literature at all. And I finally landed up with, "If we had been born Albanian." At this, she was deeply worried and anxious, I think, and she backed away from me, saying, "Yes, yes," and tottered off. It was me at my worst. I'd latched on to this poor lady and wouldn't let go and wouldn't stop talking. And anyway, it really happened, and I'm slightly embarrassed by it, but that is...
Has she invited you back ever since?
Never.
So this was after you got your OBE.
No, I don't think it was.
Oh.
I don't think it was.
Okay. Well, maybe that was her way of apologizing.
I don't think the Queen ever apologizes.
Thank you very much. Lovely to meet you. I appreciate your time, and I'll be sure to buy 2 copies of the book.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. Have a really great rest of your day.